Hello, my name is Evan Sinisak, and I am recording a short demo video for my Info 6028 graphics Project 3. The whole point of Project 3 is just to add a few enhancements to Project 2, just to start playing around with stuff and find some stuff that we're interested in and do it. So from the Dark Fantasy Kit models that I've been using, they had an ambient occlusion map, which I finally figured out what that meant after we talked about the different kinds of maps in class. And more or less the way I understand it, where did the tab go, is that the ambient occlusion affects the shininess of objects in the scene. So I added that to the fragment shader, which basically takes the red value from the texture and then multiplies it by the material color and just this small value. The sample I found online for how to include it used 0.3, so I just tried it just to see how it works. I could probably change this to any number or even have it be the texture ratios. Actually, that makes more sense given how I'm doing this. So basically, it's going to take this value from my world file when calculating the ambient occlusion. I'm going to pause until I'm done this. Alright, I've gone through my world file and changed all those now. So now it'll use that value, multiplies it by the material color, and then the red value from the texture. Then that vec3 gets added to the material color multiplied by the light, diffuse contribution, and the vertex specular contribution. And then finally, the final object color gets the ambient light added to it. And just for safety's sake, if that value is 0, and as long as this value is not 0 and the texture R is bigger than 0, then we'll use this. That's why the ship is all messed up. Because the ship is using 3 textures. Let me just... So for future, what I would do is have it as its own texture, but for simplicity and time and ease of change, I'm still using the world file. So rather than having just texture 0 through 7, I would call one AO texture and one normal map texture and stuff like that, and they would get passed in if the object had those textures. The other thing that I added to the fragment shader is the distance from light for the point light and spotlight. Essentially, if the vertex being drawn, if the light is too far away from it, then we don't care about the effect that that light has on it because it's too far away. And finally, I wanted to recreate the imposter texture that we were doing in class, where we use the quad with specific textures on it that look like the lights or the exhaust coming from the spaceships. But because I'm using the Dark Fantasy Kit stuff, I have like medieval torches, so I wanted to use that but make a torch out of it. The problem being, this is the wrong folder. Don't need that. That's where I got the models from. Link will be included in the README. The issue being that for that imposter texture, we have this long blue jet flame, which blue fire is cool, but it doesn't make a lot of sense for a medieval themed torch. So my options were find another texture, like torch flame texture, which gives us some cool stuff, but not something that's easy to just convert, and doesn't let me show how I'm actually doing an on process texture change. So what I did is, in the imposter, if B is imposter, we still grab all our textures and add and multiply them. Check the grayscale and discard it if it's black. But instead of taking the color from the texture as is, I want my torches to be red. So I pass the blue value as the red value. The green stays green, and the blue value as the red value, which basically just takes this blue flame texture and turns all of the blue to red at runtime. And then the alpha will be the same as the texture, because the grayscale value is going to be the same. I'm just switching which color is actually being used, which literally just turns anything blue into red, and vice versa. The red would become blue. So, and then just because why not, I added the flickering and changing the length of the mesh at the same time. So this is something that would be in the builder. The builder would piece together the parts of the torch, because if I open up the models, so it's yellow because I had to add color to it, but this is the wall holder, and this is the torch itself. And if I zoom out, I left this as is, or I didn't leave it as is, I did move it because for whatever reason all the DFK models start like 5, 10 away. I think they're meant to just be pieced together without changing anything, but I moved this one to the origin and then moved the torch itself the same distance. I had to move that one so that when they're, I put two of the same, so that when they're placed at the same position, the torch sits nicely in the torch holder. Now the other way would be to just move the torch to the origin and calculate how much it needs to move and put that in, but I didn't do that because for this project, I'm just trying to get them in. So I make the torch holder and torch in the world file, but later it would just be, I would have a builder that when I'm making a torch, place the torch holder wherever I need, place the torch as a child of the torch holder with the transformation that it needs to be put in the right spot, plus this as a child of the torch. So it'd be a child of a child of a child. But I'm just doing this hacky, grab the mesh, engine exhaust imposter, long blue jet flame, call it Torchlight 1. I figured out the orientation and position that this needs to move to be placed at the end of the torch, which this is what you would do at runtime in the builder anyways. Since the quad, I think it was a quad, is just at the origin, and then do one for each of my two torches, and then at the end of my lights file, I added 2 new point lights with a maximum range of 3, and then in the main loop, just using the same random attenuation since it's happening so close together every frame anyways. Just get a random number between 1 and 100, or between 0 and 99. That might work better. Excuse me. Add it to the linear attenuation to cause it to flicker, and when we draw the object, again, this is all very hacky just to get it to work quickly to submit this. I just check at draw time if we're Torchlight 1 or 2, then calculate the attenuation and add it to the scale, which I'm thinking now, whatever, this works, it's good enough. So if I run this real quick, and mostly I did the actual flickering of the texture as well, and it's static, it's not the super flickering with extra random every frame that we did in class, but I just wanted you to be able to see. So this is what the scene looks like with the ambient occlusion and light cutoff distance implemented. And so since we're talking about it, here are the lights. Every draw they update, and you can see behind the walls that the lights are changing, but the scale is just pretty much the same every time for each of them. And the other thing is the ambient occlusion, which is hard to see working right now. So I want you to, well, let's make this full screen. I want you to take note of the color of the torch holders. So there's a bit of golden brown rust on the tip, and then the rest of it's kind of this whitish color. There was, for whatever reason, the pack didn't have specific textures for the torches, but I figured this was close enough. Anyways, and then on the wardrobe, the handles and hinges are kind of the same whitish color, and all the silver parts on the chair, how it's pretty bright, pretty shiny, because now if I go into the fragment shader and I take out the ambient occlusion and we go back to how the final color was just added before, now when we look at those objects, the colors are going to be significantly different, but the rest of the models are going to be relatively the same. So now the silver on the chair is kind of dull, not really shiny at all, just metal color. And on the wardrobe, the hinges and everything go back to a gold color, and the torches are a color closer to the walls, where it's a brownish gray silver and the tip is a darker rust color. So I'm probably not doing the ambient occlusion perfectly. I've never really inspected the crystals before. I assume that they also have it, but it is working. I did change that to 0.3 for everything, right? So it should be the same math. 3.3. Yeah. So if I run it again, I didn't make it full screen last time, did I? So, yeah, everything's nice and shiny again. They lose a bit of their color, but otherwise, yeah, I don't think the crystals actually changed much. Oh, I do think the pillowcase might be a bit shinier. And just ignore the ship. There's nothing that actually changed about the ship. Now I want to look at the pillowcase again. I'll run it in release because I don't think I've actually tested it yet, so it's going to build everything. But I did notice with OBS that it was lagging a little bit, so hopefully in release it'll be a little better. After I check that, I'll uncomment that again, write the README, and submit. I think that's pretty much everything. Went for the easier marks. I still have to do the networking program, final project. No, that pill is the same. But now I want to play with So it's mostly affects the wardrobe. So if I make it smaller, what happens? Is it closer or farther from the gold? Closer. But not really. Still kind of just whites it out. If I make it 1. This is me just playing with it now. That is pure white now. Yeah, there's a bit of yellow. There's a bit of yellow still in them at 0.1. Anyways, with it just being part of the world file, it's pretty easy to change. Yeah, and at 0.01, it's almost back to gold. If I move the light. Looks pretty active to me. Yep. I think that's gonna be it for this. I'm just gonna write the README, clean everything up, and submit. Thank you. Have a good day.